The red lights were flashing again, and the sound of the alarm filled the cold metal room. He was lying on the floor, his body weak, his breath slow, and his heart. His heart was losing the fight. The man could feel it clearly now. Every beat was softer than the last one, like a fading echo in a dark place. Beside him, a small alien child was crying, its tiny hands shaking as it held his arm tightly. "Father, please, no." The child whispered in broken human words, its voice full of fear. The man tried to smile, but his lips barely moved. His eyes were heavy, but he forced them open just to see the child one more time. The room around them was not human. It was an alien medical chamber, filled with strange machines, glowing lights, and silent walls that felt alive. A machine above them spoke in a cold voice, repeating the same warning again and again. Life energy critical, only one subject can survive, decision required. The child did not understand the machine, but the man did, and that was the problem. He knew what those words meant, and he knew what was about to happen. His hand slowly moved, shaking, and he placed it gently on the child's head. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice weak but calm. But it was not okay, not at all. The child's body was glowing faintly, a strange light that flickered like a dying star. Its breathing was uneven, and its small chest struggled to rise. It was dying, and the only way to save it was something no one should ever have to choose. The man closed his eyes for a second, and memories rushed into his mind like a storm. A quiet field, dry land, a lonely life, long days without hope, and then that day, the day everything changed, he remembered finding the small broken pod half buried in the dirt, smoke rising from it. He remembered opening it slowly, expecting something dangerous, something unknown, but instead he found a child, small, weak, scared, and completely alone. The child had looked at him with wide eyes, not with fear, but with need. That was the first time it reached out its tiny hand. That was the first time it trusted him, and now it was about to lose everything again. "Warning, time remaining, 60 seconds, the machine said again. Louder this time. The man opened his eyes quickly, the present crashing back around him. The child was crying harder now, its grip tightening, refusing to let go. "Father, don't leave. Please." That word again, father. He was not its real father, he was just a human who found it. But to the child, he was everything. The man took a deep, painful breath, his chest burning, his vision starting to blur. He looked at the machine, then at the child, then back at the machine again. There was no other way. No second chance, no miracle coming to save them. 30 seconds remaining. The child leaned closer, resting its head on his chest, listening to his weak heartbeat, as if it was trying to keep it alive just by staying close. Tears rolled down the man's face, but he did not make a sound. He had already made his choice, even before this moment. Slowly, with all the strength he had left, he lifted his hand and reached toward the control panel beside him. The buttons were glowing, waiting for a decision. His fingers hovered for a second, shaking. This was it. This was the moment that would decide everything. The child looked up at him, its glowing eyes full of fear, full of trust. It did not understand what he was about to do, but it trusted him anyway. That trust, it broke something inside him, but it also gave him strength. 10 seconds remaining. The man smiled. A soft, tired smile, and in a voice barely louder than a whisper, he said, "I'm sorry, but you have to live." His finger pressed the button. The machine roared to life, lights exploding across the room, energy rushing between them. The child screamed, the man gasped, and the transfer began. His heartbeat slowed. The child's heartbeat grew stronger, and as everything around him faded into darkness, the last thing he heard was the child crying, "Father." The wind was strong that night, and the sky above the dry land was darker than usual. Clouds moved in strange shapes, not like normal clouds, but like something was hiding inside them. The man stood alone in his empty field, holding a small bag of grain in his hand. His clothes were old, his face tired, and his life had always been simple and hard. Every day was the same: work, hunger, silence, and sleep. No family, no friends, no one waiting for him, just another forgotten human on a forgotten land. He looked up at the sky again, feeling something was wrong. Then suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. Not thunder, not a storm. Something else, something sharper. A bright light cut through the sky and rushed toward the ground. The man stepped back in fear as the light grew bigger and louder. Within seconds, it crashed. Far away, behind the small hills near his field, the ground shook, birds flew away, and the wind stopped completely. Everything became quiet again. Too quiet. The man stood still for a moment, his heart beating fast. He wanted to ignore it, to walk away, to stay safe, but something inside him pushed him forward. Slowly, carefully, he began walking toward the crash site. The path was dark, the air felt strange, almost heavy. As he reached the hills, he saw smoke rising into the sky. And there it was, a broken pod, half buried in the ground, glowing with a soft blue light. It was not human, not something he had ever seen before. Its surface was smooth, with no clear doors or windows, but it was damaged, cracked open on one side. The man stopped a few steps away, unsure of what to do. Fear whispered in his mind, telling him to run, but curiosity held him in place. He picked up a small rock and threw it gently at the pod. No reaction, only silence. Taking a deep breath, he moved closer, one slow step at a time. As he reached the opening, he looked inside. At first, he saw nothing but shadows and strange lights. Then something moved. He quickly stepped back, his heart racing again. For a moment, he thought it could be a creature, something dangerous. But then he heard it, a soft, weak sound, almost like crying. The man froze, listening carefully. The sound came again, weaker this time. It was not a monster, it was a child. Confused, he leaned closer and looked inside again. There, in the corner of the broken pod, was a small figure, curled up, shaking, barely moving. Its skin was not like human skin. It had a faint glow, like soft light under the surface. Its eyes were large, filled with fear and pain. The man stared at it, unable to understand what he was seeing. An alien, a real alien child. For a moment, he felt fear again, strong and sudden. This was not normal, not safe, not something he should be near. But the child looked at him, and everything changed. There was no anger in its eyes, no danger, only fear and need. The child slowly lifted its small hand toward him, shaking, weak, as if asking for help. The man's breath became slow, his fear fading little by little. He had seen that look before, in hungry animals, in lost children, in himself. It was the look of someone who had nothing left. Without thinking too much, he stepped inside the broken pod. The air inside felt warm and strange. The machines around were silent, some still flickering with light. He moved slowly toward the child, careful not to scare it. "It's okay," he said softly. Even though he did not know if it could understand him, the child did not move away. It only watched him, its eyes following every step. He knelt down beside it, close enough to see its weak breathing. It looked like it had not eaten for a long time. Its body was too thin, too fragile. The man reached into his pocket and took out a small piece of bread. It was not much, but it was all he had. He held it out slowly, offering it to the child. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the child moved, slowly, carefully. It reached out and touched the bread, then looked at him again, as if asking for permission. He nodded gently. The child took the bread and ate it in small, quick bites. Its hands were still shaking, but its eyes changed slightly. Less fear, more trust. The man watched silently, something warm growing inside his chest. He did not understand why, but he could not leave it alone. Not like this. After eating, the child looked at him again, longer this time. Then slowly, it reached out its hand. Not for food this time, but for him. The man hesitated for a second, then gently took its small hand in his own. It was warm, softer than he expected. The child's eyes closed slightly, as if it felt safe for the first time, and in a weak, broken voice, it said something, not clearly, not perfectly, but close enough. Fa. Thur. The man's heart skipped a beat. He did not know what that word meant to the child, but he knew one thing for sure. From that moment, he was no longer alone. Morning came slowly over the dry land, and the first light of the sun touched the small house at the edge of the field inside. Everything was quiet, but not empty anymore. The man woke up on the floor, his body still tired from the long night. For a moment, he forgot everything. Then he heard a soft sound. A small movement, a light breath. He turned his head quickly, and there it was, the alien child sleeping near him, curled up under an old cloth. Its glowing skin was softer now, less bright than before, but still alive. The man sat up slowly, watching it carefully. He still could not believe it was real, an alien in his home, but it did not feel dangerous. It felt right. The child moved a little, its eyes opening slowly. For a second, it looked confused, like it forgot where it was. Then it saw him, and something changed in its face. It did not show fear, it showed calm. The man gave a small smile, unsure of what to say. "You're awake," he said quietly. The child did not understand the words fully, but it understood the tone. It sat up slowly, still weak, but better than before. Its eyes looked around the room, taking in everything, the walls, the roof, the simple things of a human life. Then it looked back at him. Fa-thur. It said again, a little clearer this time. The man froze for a moment. That word again. He shook his head slightly, as if trying to push the feeling away. "I'm not," he started to say, but stopped. The child was already smiling, small but real. It believed it, and somehow he did not correct it. Days began to pass, slowly, quietly. The man continued his simple life, but now he was not alone. He hid the child carefully, never letting anyone see, not that anyone came often. This place was forgotten by most people. The child stayed inside most of the time, learning, watching, growing. It learned quickly, faster than any human child. Words, actions, feelings, everything seemed new to it, but it understood more each day. "Water," it said one day, pointing at a cup. The man looked surprised, then smiled. "Yes, water," he replied. The child repeated the word again, trying to say it better. Wa-tur. They both laughed softly, a simple moment, but important. At night, the child would sit beside him, looking at the stars through the broken window. Its eyes would glow slightly, reflecting the sky. "Home," it whispered once, pointing upward. The man followed its finger, looking at the endless dark sky. "Your home is up there?" he asked gently. The child nodded slowly, but its face became sad. It knew it could not go back. Not now, maybe not ever. The man felt something heavy in his chest. He did not have answers, but he had something else. He had care. Time continued, and their bond grew stronger. The child began to follow him outside, staying close, always watching. It helped in small ways, carrying light things, learning how to move like a human. Sometimes it made mistakes, funny ones. It tried to walk like him, talk like him, even sit like him, and every time it failed, it looked at him, waiting for approval. And every time he smiled, "You're doing fine," he would say. The child would smile back, happy with even the smallest praise. But not everything was getting better. Slowly, something began to change. The child started getting tired more often. At first, it was small. It would sit down more, rest longer, breathe a little heavier. The man noticed it, but said nothing, hoping it was nothing serious. But deep inside, he felt worried. One evening, while they were outside, the child suddenly stopped walking. Its body shook slightly, its light flickering again, like that first night. "Hey, what's wrong?" the man asked quickly, moving closer. The child tried to speak, but its voice was weak. Tired. Before he could react, the child collapsed, falling into his arms. Its body felt lighter than before. Too light. Its breathing was uneven again, just like in the pod. No, stay with me, he said, panic rising in his voice. He lifted the child and rushed inside, placing it gently on the floor. The glow in its body was fading again, slowly, dangerously. The man looked around, helpless, searching for something, anything that could help. But there was nothing. No medicine, no answers, no help, only him and a child that trusted him completely. He held its small hand tightly, his own hands shaking now. "You're going to be okay. You hear me?" he said, trying to sound strong, but his voice was breaking. The child's eyes opened slightly. Barely, it looked at him, weak but still trusting. That word again, softer this time, almost fading, and in that moment, the man realized something he had been trying to ignore. This was not just a visitor, not just a strange being from another world. This was his responsibility now, his child, and if he did nothing, he was going to lose it. The room was quiet, too quiet, and the only sound was the weak breathing of the alien child. The man sat beside it, his eyes wide, his hand still holding the child's small hand tightly. Its skin was losing its glow again, fading slowly like a dying light. No. Stay with me, he whispered, his voice shaking. He had seen this before. The same weakness, the same fading life, but this time it felt worse, stronger, faster. The child's body moved slightly, but it did not wake up. Its breathing became slower, heavier, like every breath was a struggle. The man stood up suddenly, panic rising inside him. "There has to be something I missed," he said to himself. His eyes moved around the room quickly, searching, thinking, trying to remember. Then his mind went back to the crash site, the pod, the strange machines, the broken lights. Maybe, just maybe, there was still something there. Without wasting another second, he covered the child gently with a cloth. "I'll come back. I promise," he said softly, even though the child could not hear him. Then he ran, faster than he had ever run before. The night air was cold, the wind cutting against his face, but he did not stop. His feet moved quickly across the dry land, his breath heavy, his heart full of fear. When he reached the crash site, the broken pod was still there, silent and dark. The soft blue light was weaker now, almost gone. He stepped inside quickly, his eyes scanning everything. Most of the machines were dead, broken, useless, but then a faint sound came from deeper inside, a low hum, almost like something still alive. He followed the sound carefully, moving past broken panels and burned wires, until he found it, a small console. Still glowing faintly, its surface was cracked, but the center light was still active. The man moved closer, unsure of what it was. As he touched it, the screen suddenly lit up, strange symbols appeared. Moving quickly across the surface, he stepped back in shock, but the screen changed again. This time, the symbols shifted, slowly turning into something he could understand. Not perfect, but clear enough. Words, human words. He stared at the screen, reading carefully. Emergency medical system activated. His heart beat faster, hope rising for the first time. Yes, this can help, he said quickly. The screen continued. Subject condition, critical. Species, unknown to human database. The man leaned closer, focusing on every word. Life energy unstable, core system failure. Detected. His hands tightened into fists. What does that mean? How do I fix it? He asked, even though no one was there to answer. The screen flickered again, then showed new information. Required. Compatible energy source transfer. He blinked, confused. Compatible, what? Then the screen changed again, showing something new. A diagram. 2 figures, one small, one larger, energy flowing from one to the other. The man's breathing slowed as he watched. A feeling of fear started to grow inside him. He already knew. He just did not want to accept it. The screen continued. Only one subject will survive the transfer. The words hit him like a heavy blow. He stepped back, shaking his head. No. There has to be another way, but the system did not change. Only repeated the same message. Only one subject will survive. The man looked at the diagram again, the smaller figure. The child, the larger one. A human him. Silence filled the pod, heavy and cold. His mind was racing, trying to find a different answer, a different path. But there was none. This was the truth. The only way to save the child was to give his own life. He closed his eyes tightly. His chest rising and falling slowly. Images flashed in his mind, his empty life, his lonely days. Then the child's face, smiling, learning. Father. That word again, it echoed in his mind, louder than everything else. Father. He opened his eyes slowly, looking at the screen again. His fear was still there. But something else was growing stronger, something deeper. He took a step forward, placing his hand on the console again. If I do this, it will live? He asked. Softly, the system responded immediately. Survival chance, high, and me? He asked, even though he already knew. Human survival, 0. The answer was cold, simple, final. He stood there in silence for a long moment, then slowly. He nodded, not because he was ready, but because he understood. This was not just a choice. This was the only chance the child had. He turned away from the console and looked back toward the dark land. Toward his small home. Toward the child waiting. For him, waiting. Without knowing what was coming, the man took a deep breath, his eyes steady now. The truth. He whispered to himself, I have to decide. The night felt heavier than before, and every step the man took back toward his home felt slower. The truth was now inside his mind, clear and sharp, and impossible to ignore. The cold words of the alien machine echoed again and again. Only one subject will survive. He walked across the empty land, the wind brushing past him, but he barely felt it. His thoughts were louder than anything around him. Every memory, every moment, every feeling was rising inside him. When he reached his small house, he stopped at the door. His hand rested on the wood, but he did not open it immediately. He was afraid, not of the child, but of the choice he had to make after a few seconds. He pushed the door open slowly and stepped inside. The room was quiet, just like before. The child was still lying where he had left it, covered gently, breathing weakly. The man moved closer quickly, kneeling beside it. I'm back, he said. Softly, even though the child could not hear him, he touched its forehead, and it felt warmer than before, but not in a good way. Its light flickered again, unstable, like it was fighting to stay alive. The man looked at it, and something inside him broke. He had already seen enough pain in his life, but this was different. This was someone who depended on him, someone who trusted him without question. He sat beside the child, his back against the wall, his eyes fixed on its small face. Time passed slowly, each second feeling heavier than the last. His mind began to drift into memories again. He saw himself alone in the field, working under the hot sun, no voice calling his name, no one waiting for him, just silence, every day, every night. Then he saw the moment he found the pod, the fear, the confusion, and then the small hand reaching out to him. That moment had changed everything. It gave him something he never had before, a reason, a purpose, a connection. He looked down at the child again, his eyes softer now. You gave me more than I ever had, he whispered. The child moved. Slightly, its fingers twitching. Then slowly, its eyes opened, weak, tired, but still alive. It looked at him, and even in that condition, it tried to smile. Thur, it said, barely a sound. The man's chest tightened, his breath catching for a moment. He leaned closer, holding its small hand gently. I'm here, he replied softly. The child blinked slowly, trying to stay awake. Don't go, it whispered. Those words were simple, but they carried so much fear. The man felt tears rise in his eyes, but he did not let them fall. He could not show weakness now, not when the child needed him to be strong. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, forcing a calm tone, but inside he knew that was not true, not for long. The child's grip on his hand became weaker. Its eyes slowly closing again. It was losing strength, minute by minute. The man looked away for a moment, his jaw tightening. He could not keep waiting. Every second he delayed was a step closer to losing the child forever. He stood up slowly, his body heavy, his decision forming clearly now. There was no more time for doubt, no more space for fear. He had lived his life already, a simple life, a lonely one. But in the end, it had meaning. Because of this child, he looked around the small room. At everything he had, it was not much, but it was his world, and now he was ready to leave it behind. He walked to the door, then stopped and looked back one last time. The child was still there, small, fragile, trusting him completely. That trust gave him the final strength he needed. "I will save you," he said quietly. The words were not loud, but they were strong. A promise, a final promise. He walked back to the child and gently picked it up in his arms. Its body felt lighter than ever, almost like it could disappear at any moment. "Stay with me. Just a little longer," he whispered. Then he turned and stepped out into the night again. The path back to the pod was dark, but he did not hesitate. Each step was steady now. His mind clear, his heart calm. The decision had been made, but he did not tell the child. He did not want its last moments to be filled with fear. He wanted it to feel safe, loved, protected, like a child should feel. As he walked under the dark sky, he held it close, and for the first time in his life, he was not afraid of what was coming next, because he knew why he was doing it, and that was enough. The broken pod stood silent in the dark, its weak blue light barely touching the ground around it. The man stepped closer, holding the child tightly in his arms, his face calm, but his eyes heavy with what was about to come. The wind had stopped again, and the night felt still, like the world itself was waiting. He entered the pod slowly, careful with every step inside. The air was warm and quiet, but the machines were waking up again, as if they already knew what he had decided. The console in the center flickered to life, casting a soft glow across the room. The man gently placed the child onto the platform beneath the child moved slightly, its weak hands reaching for him. "Thur," it whispered, its voice fading like a distant sound. "I'm here," he said softly. Taking its hand again, the machine began to hum, low and steady, like a slow heartbeat. Lights moved across the walls. Connecting to the platform, a soft voice echoed again. "Cold and clear. Transfer system ready. Confirmed decision." The man looked at the screen, then at the child. There was no fear left in his face now, only quiet strength. He pressed the panel without hesitation. "Decision confirmed," the machine replied. The room came alive instantly. Bright light filled every corner, and energy began to flow through the machines. The man felt a sudden pressure in his chest, like something was pulling at his very core. He stayed close to the child, not letting go of its hand. "It's going to be okay," he whispered again. The child's eyes opened slightly, looking at him. There was confusion, fear, and trust all mixed together. "Father." "Hurt," it said weakly. He shook his head gently, even as pain started to rise inside him. "No. You're going to be fine," he replied. The machine grew louder, its hum turning into a deep vibration. Lines of light connected the man to the child, moving between them like streams of energy. The transfer had begun. The man's breath became heavy, his body trembling as he felt his strength being taken away. Every heartbeat felt slower, harder, like pushing through thick darkness. But on the other side, the child's body began to glow brighter, stronger than before. Its breathing became steady, its chest rising with new strength. The man saw it, and a soft smile appeared on his face. "It's working," he whispered. Pain spread through his body now, deep and sharp, but he did not pull away. He did not stop. The child held his hand tighter now, stronger than before, as if it was trying to hold him back. Don't. The child cried, its voice breaking. The man's vision started to blur, the room around him becoming distant. He could barely see, barely hear, but he still felt the small hand in his. That was enough. Listen to me, he said softly, his voice fading. You have to live, okay? The child shook its head, tears falling from its glowing eyes. No. Together. The man's smile grew weaker, but it stayed there. I'll always be with you, he whispered. The machine reached its peak, the light becoming almost blinding. The energy flow increased. Faster and stronger, the man's heartbeat slowed even more, each beat now far apart, weak, fading. The child's heartbeat, on the other hand, became clear and strong, a new rhythm of life. The room echoed with two different sounds. One fading, one growing. The man's body began to lose strength completely, his hand slipping slightly, but the child held on, refusing to let go. Thur. It cried again, louder this time. He tried to respond, but his voice was almost gone. His lips moved, but no sound came out. His eyes slowly began to close, the darkness pulling him in. The machine's voice spoke one last time. Transfer. Complete. The lights dimmed, the hum stopped, and silence filled the pod again. The child sat up suddenly, its body now full of energy, its glow bright and steady. Father. It called, looking around quickly. Then it saw him still beside it, still holding its hand, but not moving, not breathing. The child shook him gently, panic rising again. Father, wake, please. But there was no response. The man's chest was still, his face calm, like he was finally at peace. The child held him tightly, crying into his chest. The silence of the pod felt heavier than anything before, and in that silence, one heartbeat had ended, so another could begin. The pod was silent now, and the bright lights from before had faded into a soft glow. The child sat on the cold floor, still holding the man's hand tightly. Its tears fell slowly, one after another, touching the still surface of his skin. Father. It whispered again, but there was no answer. The small body shook as it tried to understand what had happened. Only moments ago, he was there, speaking, holding, protecting now. There was only silence. The child moved closer. Resting its head on his chest, it waited, hoping to hear the heartbeat again. But there was nothing, no movement, no warmth, only the memory of what used to be. Time passed, but the child did not move. It stayed there, holding him, as if letting go would make it all real. The soft glow around its body became steady now, stronger than ever. The transfer had worked. It was alive. Because of him, slowly, the child lifted its head, its glowing eyes looking at the man's face. He looked peaceful, like he was sleeping after a long day. But the child understood now, in its own way. He was not coming back. With shaking hands, it gently placed his hand on his chest, just like he used to do when the child was afraid. A small act, but full of meaning. Sleep. Father. It said softly, trying to copy the way he used to speak. The pod's systems flickered again, weak but still active. A soft voice echoed quietly. Primary subject life signs, stable. Secondary subject, terminated. The child looked toward the machine, its expression changing. The words were cold, empty. They did not understand him. They did not understand what he had done. The child stood up slowly, its body stronger now, filled with new energy. But its heart felt heavier than ever. It looked around the pod, then back at him. For a moment, it did not know what to do next. It had never been alone like this before, not after meeting him. But something inside it began to grow. A quiet strength, a memory of his voice, his actions, his care. The child walked to the console, looking at the glowing screen. Its eyes moved quickly, understanding more than before. The transfer had changed it, made it stronger, smarter, more aware. It reached out and touched the panel. The system responded. Instantly, command input detected. The child paused, then spoke slowly. Home? No. It looked back at the man again, its eyes soft. Then it said something new, something stronger. Stay. Here. The system processed the words, then changed its display. Coordinates shifted, signals moved. The pod began preparing for something new, not a return, but a beginning. The child walked back and knelt beside him one last time. It placed its small hand over his, holding it gently. I live. Because you. It said, its voice still simple, but full of meaning. Then it stood up. Taking a deep breath, for the first time, it did not look lost. It looked determined. The pod slowly lifted from the ground, its engines coming back to life. The land below remained silent, just as it always had been. But something had changed, something important. Years passed after that night. The small alien child grew, becoming taller, stronger. Its glow became brighter, its presence more powerful. It was no longer weak, no longer afraid. It had learned, adapted, evolved across distant worlds. Its name became known, a protector, a leader, a being of great strength. But even with all that power, it never forgot. In quiet moments, it would look at the stars and remember. A small, simple home, a broken field, a lonely man, a voice that once called it closer, a hand that once held it when it was afraid. Father. It would whisper softly, even after all those years. And one day, standing before others of its kind, it spoke clearly, not as a weak child, but as a strong being with purpose. A human. Saved me, it said, its voice calm but powerful. He gave me everything, even his life. The others listened in silence. He was not my kind, but he was my family. Its eyes glowed brighter as it continued, and because of him, I will protect his world. Far away, on that quiet land, nothing seemed different. The wind still moved across the dry fields. The sky still stretched endlessly above. But hidden in that silence was a story of a human who had nothing, yet gave everything. A story of a child who lost everything, yet gained a future, and in the space between life and loss, a bond that never truly ended.